Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and yesterday, I guess afternoon, Ripple began to send news out like it was almost like a machine gun of news coming out of Ripple, but before that, I think it was before it, David Schwartz tweeted this picture out. It's a picture of a ship sailing into the sunset, I guess. And he's always tweaking social media, so Lord knows what he meant. But anyway, so this is how it all, this is the core of what came out yesterday from Ripple's Twitter feed. Ripple is piloting a private version of the open source public XRP ledger that allows central banks to create and manage a digital currency, enabling global interoperability. Get involved today. Here's the article. Says here, they're piloting a private version of the public open source XRP ledger that provides central banks a secure, controlled, and flexible solution for issuance and management of digital currencies, with over 80% of central banks actively exploring some form of sovereign-backed cryptocurrency. The arrival of the world's first central bank digital currency is inevitable. Each new CBDC will have unique goals driven by the specific market challenges and opportunities of its country, unavoidably leading to different technologies and implementations, leaving the world with an array of CBDC solutions. So it's talking about CBDC private ledger. This private ledger is based on the same blockchain technology that powers the XRP ledger, which means the CBDC private ledger is built for payments. This also means the CBDC private ledger is designed for issuing currencies. With over 5,400 currencies issued on the XRP ledger over the past 8 years, including its native digital asset XRP, which can be leveraged as a neutral bridge asset for frictionless value movement between CBDCs and other currencies. And then we go down, it says, time to define the future of money. It says, we are currently engaged with central banks around the world to better understand their goals and assess how the CBDC private ledger can help achieve them. We believe this solution will overcome major challenges around creating and managing sovereign digital currency. It says we're just getting started. We're also working on a fresh approach where central banks will be able to join a network of CBDC ledgers that enables full settlement and interoperability, while allowing each member to retain their monetary and technological independence. We believe this will be a game changer for central banks. Okay, well, this is big, huge news. And so now I just remembered something, and I went back and found this video of Brad Garlinghouse. I'm going to, and I tweeted this out. After you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. Ripple told you the truth all along. Did you listen? I live in the real world. When I was 18, I may have jumped on the short the banker's Bitcoin bust. At 47, I know better. This is a big boy or big girl game. Bitcoin was never the one. It is and was a ruse. I've always believed that, or not always, but having spent a lot of time in this now, I believe that everybody, look over there at Bitcoin, look over there at Bitcoin. Meanwhile, what's really going on is XRP, and I would throw XLM and then a handful of others, the ones with utility, the ones that can have tokens built on these ledgers like this. That is where this is all going. Bitcoin is more or less just a token itself. So anyway, it's time to watch this clip, and I'm going to show you the larger version of the clip from the actual video. I tried to upload the longer version to Twitter, but it won't let you upload longer ones. Listen.
They're not real blockchain because they're not public.
Yeah.
Part of it's decentralized, but it's not enough to be decentralized. But you need to be a public blockchain. And,
yeah.
And XRP will never displace Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
You know, what are your thoughts on that? Is there any merit to that at all, or
there's a lot of merit to some of that. Look, I'll tell you a quick story, my background. One of the first banks that Ripple signed, so today we have a product in market that's, we're releasing version 4. When we launched version 1.0, which is always an exciting time for a tech company, you release a product, it's version 1.0. We launched that product, we were partnered with one of the largest banks in the Middle East, and we went to market, and we went live. And we had a call from a very upset Middle Eastern banker saying, wait a minute, people can see my transactions. I don't want people to see my transactions. So look, blockchain is powerful, and a public ledger can be leveraged to make transactions. But banks, I mean, if every SCB transaction was written to a public ledger, would SCB...
Just a little pause. That's what's called the real world, folks. That's what's called the real world. This down with the banker's business. The idea that somehow this one Bitcoin ledger is going to take over the world and all the banks are gone and screw the bankers. That's child's play. That's children games. The real world is the bankers control things and always have and always will. There will always be powerful people. There will always be the rich and the poor. That's just the way life works. And anybody who's an adult walking around talking about how that's not fair and all that, they must not have lived in the real world much growing up, because that is the real world. It's the business world. It's the money. It's the way things work. Pay attention.
Excited about that? The answer is no. I'll tell you very certainly. The nature of how we have evolved our technology, yes, some of it, XRP is a public open ledger. A different part of Ripple's technology that connects banks to the liquidity solutions, these are private, think about it almost as a private temporary blockchain between two banks. It's cryptographically signing the transaction, holding it in escrow, and releasing it at the same time, so you never have a situation where a transaction doesn't complete. But the point I would make is, those who espouse this idea of, look, all transactions should be open, I look at that and I think, that is not the real world. We can talk about the origins, particularly around Bitcoin, and to some of the degree other tokens, has been this idea of, hey, we're going to circumvent governments. We don't want the government involved. We're going to circumvent banks. Look, Ripple, we come at it from exactly the opposite point of view. Governments aren't going away. By extension, banks are definitely not going away. We can enable banks to enable an internet of value. If you want to enable an internet of value, you have to connect the repositories of value. The repositories of value are the banks. We want to work with the banks, with financial institutions, with payment providers, with Linlen Pay or PayPal or fill in blank, to dramatically accelerate the nature of how payments occur today and reducing that friction.
It's time to put your big boy pants on and your big girl pants on, because this is the real world. The banks and the central banks are not going anywhere. That's why it was a smart move to bet on XRP and what Ripple was working on for the last 7-8 years, and not this silly movement, down with the banksters. Come on. That's not the real world. That's the child world. That's children stuff. All right. So Joel Katz, David Schwartz weighs in on the announcement yesterday. The XRPL has been running smoothly for 8+ years with billions of dollars at stake. The CBDC private ledger ensures transaction privacy and security controls, combined with the reliability and payments proficiency of XRPL, the best of both worlds. And then this person says, what the H is going on? Was this the plan all along? Good thing we have XDC, because this person is coming from the child angle. And David Schwartz, with his big boy pants on, replies, if someone says they want a walled garden, and in other words, when you are speaking with customers, your bank customers, to ignore your customers and what their demands are is not only silly, but it'll put you out of business, okay? So you're going to do what the central banks and the banks and all want for their bank and central banks. You're not going to do what you want. What you want is this Bitcoin take over the world and we're never going to need them. That is children stuff. what they want, and David Schwartz addresses it here. If someone says they want a walled garden and you can't convince them otherwise, you build them a walled garden with a big red button pressed to lower walls. Then you wait. At first, those both inside and outside the walls perform a kind of arbitrage service. The walls are eventually seen as an inconvenience, and the people wonder why they ever thought they wanted them. There you go, folks. Now, this was another good thread on this whole thing by this Neats Bucks. I want to share some thoughts. I'm not going to go through this whole thread. I'm going to go down to this one part down here, if I can remember where it is. Okay, now it's talking about how the private ledgers, these central banks and all would have private ledgers, and then it says, now a bridge asset strategically placed at the center of the new financial system is very necessary. Like oil, without it, society stops functioning well. This type of massive utility will make XRP necessary and is an amazing store of value. Kind of the whole ball game. In other words, why would, and this is what I've said all along, why is Bitcoin considered a store of value when the only difference is XRP's got scarcity just like Bitcoin does? The only difference is, well, several differences. One, I could store my value in XRP, and then when I'm ready to send it, I can send it in 3 seconds instead of possibly 2 hours with Bitcoin. And it's not killing the environment like Bitcoin is. And it's not near as expensive to send as Bitcoin is. So why would Bitcoin be my store of value if XRP could be my store of value and be everything? Doesn't make any sense, never has. That's why Bitcoin's just a marketing program. Monica Long also weighed in on this from Ripple. Tokenization has always been a key feature of the XRP ledger, with over 5,400 issued tokens since inception. CBDCs will live on new private ledgers that run parallel to XRPL. And I find this interesting because, you remember the virtual conference that the Chamber of Digital Commerce runs? They call it the Parallel Conference. And I've always thought that was kind of interesting. Using XRP as a bridge to interoperate with other currencies, no more walled gardens. And she's retweeting this from RippleX, leveraging the same blockchain technology that powers the XRP ledger. Low cost, high transactions per second, energy efficient, and reliability. The CBDC private ledger is built for payments. And another thing that's brought up in there is by using this technology, folks, the central banks and the banks, they don't have to deal with the political problems that would come with using a technology that's bad for climate. You see how this all unfolds, folks? You see how this play is unfolding? Now, down here is an interesting, they've mentioned in the document as well as here that 5,400 plus issued tokens since inception already. And so there was a reply here from the Sum community, and they said, yes, 5,400 issued tokens. They had a link where you can actually go and see the tokens that have been created on the XRP ledger. I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, then J.C. Collins, and let's give some credit where credit's due. December 18th of 2018, he puts this picture, the upside down. That's a takeoff on that TV show that everybody likes so much on Netflix, Stranger Things. He says, there is a rumor of a special place where XRP volume is disconnected from the public exchanges and is growing exponentially on private ledgers. At some point, these worlds will converge. Stress testing exchanges is important before go live. Just sharing the rumor. Hello. Okay, now let's move along. And then also yesterday, this happened. Brad Garlinghouse, today a letter was filed on my behalf indicating my intent to file a motion to dismiss in response to the SEC's amended complaint against me. Simply put, the SEC's allegations are regulatory overreach. The letter speaks for itself. And then we had this. This is, I don't know if that's, no, that's not his lawyer, but this is Chris Larson's motion to dismiss as well. And then this guy summarized Larson's basic argument. Wrath of Kahneman claims he couldn't aid and abet given FinCEN DOJ rulings. He wasn't directly responsible for Ripple's sales. Not one of the 500 million transactions was alleged to be in the U.S. sold in global markets past 5-year statute of limitations. Now, the attorney, Jeremy Hogan, I'm going to go ahead and give him a title. He is the official attorney that talks about the SEC lawsuit on YouTube of the Digital Asset Investor channel. You now have a title, Jeremy Hogan. Let me say that again, see if I can say it the right way again. You're the official attorney who talks about the Ripple SEC case on YouTube of the Digital Asset Investor channel. Not just anyone gets a title, Jeremy. That's good. Go give him a subscribe. It's Legal Briefs right here. Give him a subscribe. So I wanted to play for you this section of what he said. This is the important thing. And I'll give you my short gist of what I think it means. And that is that FinCEN ruling that declared XRP a virtual currency, I think back in 2015, that's the one that gives the SEC a real big problem. Is because you can't argue that Brad Garlinghouse or Chris Larson reasonably knew, and I don't know what the specific requirements are here, but that they reasonably knew that that XRP was a security when they had a ruling from the Treasury. The FinCEN is a department of the Treasury. They have a ruling that says it's a virtual currency. How can you then turn around and say, oh, well, they knew it was a security? Doesn't make any sense.
I've tried it as well, but it didn't. It answered the complaint. But let's take a look at the second argument, and this is what got me out of bed and outlining this vlog. It's exciting, it's strong, and it's about scienter. Looking at Roman numeral 1, the amended complaint fails to adequately allege scienter, a necessary element of the aiding and abetting claim. The amended complaint purports to allege that Mr. Garlinghouse aided and abetted Ripple's unregistered sales of XRP, while violations of Section 5 do not require a showing of scienter, aiding and abetting does. The SEC has the burden to demonstrate that Mr. Garlinghouse either knew or recklessly disregarded that he was associating himself with something improper and nonetheless substantially assisted Ripple in committing that violation. So here the defendant points out that the lawsuit against Ripple doesn't require the SEC show that Ripple knew it was selling a security, but the SEC has to show that the officers and execs at Ripple actually knew what they were doing was wrong. And this higher standard makes sense because, I mean, you can imagine you go to work at a company and you're doing your thing and a month later you get sued just for doing your job. Now that's not right, and that's why the SEC has to show that Garlinghouse knew that he was selling an unregistered security. And why is the SEC not going to be able to prove that absent a smoking gun? They're not going to be able to prove it because even the federal government didn't know it. Let's read on. Looking at the middle of page 3, quote, "But it is worse than simply a pleading failure. The SEC's own allegations demonstrate that, like the market more broadly, Mr. Garlinghouse was inundated with evidence that defendants' transactions on XRP were not investment contracts, undermining any suggestions that he understood that he was associating himself with something improper. Right when Mr. Garlinghouse joined Ripple as COO in 2015, the company finalized a public enforcement settlement with the Department of Justice and FinCEN on the basis that XRP was a virtual currency, in which the company agreed to undertake remedial steps applicable to currency transactions and inapplicable to securities transactions." So Garlinghouse goes to work at Ripple, and one of the first things he gets embroiled in is some legal issues with FinCEN, where FinCEN, a department of the U.S. Treasury, ends up finding that XRP is a currency. Repeat, the U.S. government said in 2015 that XRP is a currency, which is the opposite of a security. And then again in 2020, FinCEN said the same thing. That's a tongue twister. And now we know not only this, but also that the investigation by the SEC took 30 months before the lawsuit was finally filed. And if it's such an obvious thing that XRP is a security that Garlinghouse and Larson should have known right away, why did it take the SEC and its thousands of lawyers 30 months to figure it out? And now we also know from the pretrial conference that an exchange approached the SEC and asked the SEC if XRP was a security, and the SEC shrugged its shoulders and said, "Don't know yet." But the defendants are supposed to know. Brad and Chris are supposed to know. I mean, the whole thing starts to look ridiculous for the SEC, and that's why if I was the SEC, I would make a Hail Mary at this point, because I would know I need a smoking gun, and the only possible smoking gun out there would be a letter from a lawyer to Ripple addressed to Garlinghouse and Larson, specifically that says, "Dear Ripple execs, XRP is a security, no doubt about it, you must..."
All right, this guy, I like him not just because he's smart, but I think he's got a great personality too. Okay, Matt Hamilton, who now works for Ripple, is my understanding. The public ledger is built for payments, and it was built nearly a decade ago, long before banks knew how they would use blockchains. This gives the best of both worlds: a private blockchain for intra-bank, but linked to a public one for interbank. Now, what does all this remind me of? Because remember, I've been waking up for almost 3 years every day of my life, making between 2 and 3 videos about nothing except Ripple, XRP, and digital assets. And when you do that, and things like yesterday happen, all of a sudden there are things that are delivered up from the past. So look at Matt Hamilton's tweet there, and then I will show you this. Remember this? If you take a look, this is a tweet from back September 18th, 2020. If you take a look at the following example from the World Economic Forum Insight Report, there's only one example per definition. Intrabank equals same bank ecosystem, walled garden. JP Morgan, JPM Coin. Interbank, different bank ecosystems, Goldman to SBI. This is the Central Bank Digital Currency Policymaker Toolkit from January 2020, Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and they list XRP, crypto assets designed for inter or intra-bank payments and settlements. Examples: JPM Coin, XRP. You know what else this reminded me of, this news from yesterday? Is this diagram from the Everest document. You've got the XRP ledger. All of these things, they've got their, that's what this diagram looks like to me. All these little, they've got their private ledgers, then they go through the XRP. It's the bridge between other private ledgers. How about them apples? And then finally, yesterday, we had this piece of news. Do you remember? I do. Do you remember a few weeks ago when we were hearing everybody was talking about Ripple possibly moving out of the country because we can't get regulatory certainty? And what I said was, Ripple's not moving anywhere, and I said it over and over, and I know that many people thought that that was just irresponsible and I should not say that. But guess what? Again, I'm an adult. I know how the game is played. I've watched games be played for years in my life. All the world's a stage, folks. Remember that. There are no coincidences. All the world's a stage. We've been watching a freaking play unfold, and I believe we're in the final act, friends. Okay, speaking of the play, I tweeted this yesterday. Now, what this is right here, this is from back on December 21st when Jay Clayton filed the SEC lawsuit against Ripple. And Yoshitaka Kitao, who's the CEO of SBI Holdings, which is also an owner, a 10.5% owner in Ripple, who is also, he sits on the board of directors at Ripple. He tweets Brad Garlinghouse's tweet out, and he says, Japan's FSA has already made it clear that XRP is not a security. I'm optimistic that Ripple will prevail in the final ruling in the U.S. SBI Holdings remains a steadfast partner to Ripple and looks forward to expanding together in Asia. Okay? Well, I was just looking around and I found this. This is a page, Japan FSA, fourth study group on virtual currency exchanges. Look who was there. Gary Gensler. All right? The same guy that's about to be the SEC chairman. Well, let's look at, here's the slideshow that was run. Gary Gensler was in attendance. He was asked to be there. This is the minutes of the fourth study group on virtual currency exchanges. Gary Gensler, there's Sagar Sarbai, head of government and regulatory relations of APAC and Middle East at Ripple. Okay? And then we've got this. In addition to its members, the study group invited the following persons to exchange opinions. So, look, I'm sure that's purely a coincidence that Gary Gensler happened to be in attendance in the study group, probably before the FSA came out and said XRP is not a security. Pure coincidence. Just wanted to show you that. Wanted to remind you, Link 2 next week is going to have their conference on March 9th through 10th. Tim Draper's going to be there. You're also going to have Greg Kidd and a few others. There was somebody from Blockchain Capital I showed you yesterday. It's at LINQTO Inc. is their Twitter handle. You can click on this and register. I will be in that conference. Looking forward to it. And I hope I can ask Tim Draper a question or two. I think that he's a really, what I like about him is that he is such a welcoming personality. I just think he seems like such a nice person. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that we could be in the last act of a play.